While standing in line for food at our company retreat, my manager said loudly, "Some people are only here because of sympathy hires. Bless their little hearts for trying." I stared at my shoes as everyone else avoided eye contact. 2 months later, he was marched out by security after the board found out about the discrimination lawsuit, and I was sitting in his former office chair.
I don't even know how to explain what that day felt like. Maybe you've had a moment like that, when someone humiliates you in public and you can't say a damn thing back. It was a Friday afternoon. We were at a company retreat in Asheville, North Carolina. Some resort with a golf course, fire pits, fancy bottled water, the usual corporate nonsense. I work in software development for a big tech firm. I'd been with the company almost 4 years by then. I'm deaf, not completely, but enough that I rely on hearing aids, closed captions, and sometimes lip reading. It wasn't always like that. I lost most of my hearing after I turned 28, due to a rare condition. Anyway, we were all in line waiting for food. Barbecue brisket, potato salad, all laid out buffet style. I was in line, second or third, plate in hand, when I heard it. Rick, my manager, standing behind me, talking louder than he needed to. "Some people are only here because of sympathy hires. Bless their little hearts for trying." I didn't move. I didn't look at anyone. I just stared at the floor. He never said my name, but everyone knew who he meant. I was the only one on our team with a disability. It didn't take a genius. No one said anything. A few awkward chuckles. A couple people looked away. Nobody stood up for me. That part hurt just as much. I held it together through the rest of the day. Smiled. Ate. Took part in the fake bonding games. But inside, I was already planning. Rick had been doing this for a while. Little things. He'd accidentally leave me off meeting invites. He'd talk over me, ignore me when I gave input during calls. He once made a joke about turning off captions to see if I'd notice. He made sure he never said anything too blatant, nothing that would get him in trouble on paper. But people noticed. A couple coworkers had warned me before that he talked about me behind my back, called me the quota hire. I kept my head down for a long time. I didn't want to cause trouble. I thought maybe it'd get better. But that comment at the buffet? That crossed a line. That weekend, I started gathering everything. Screenshots of missed invites. Emails where he blamed me for things I didn't even know about. Messages from coworkers who heard him say stuff I didn't even ask, they offered. Said they felt guilty for not speaking up. One person even told me, "He said you got the job because of pity." I contacted an attorney who specialized in workplace discrimination. We met over Zoom, and I laid out everything. She was sharp. She told me to keep a low profile, keep working, and to document everything in detail. So I did. For 2 months, I kept my head down and played it smart. I didn't change anything in my routine. I acted like nothing had happened. But every time Rick tried to undermine me or make some accidental mistake, I logged it. I made sure my work was solid. No room for doubt. Then the day came. HR scheduled a routine audit of management behavior across departments. They didn't say it was about my complaint. But I knew. I'd already sent in the full report through my lawyer. A week after that, Rick started acting weird. He looked stressed. Kept checking his phone. Left meetings early. Then it happened. It was a Wednesday. Around 2:30 in the afternoon. Security walked past my desk. Calm. No fuss. Then they turned into Rick's office. 10 minutes later, he came out with them. His face looked drained, like someone had kicked the air out of him. He didn't say anything. Didn't look at anyone. Just walked out between the 2 security officers. No one clapped. No one said anything. But I saw a few people glance at me. That same day, I got called into a meeting with our department head and HR. They told me Rick had been terminated for multiple violations of company policy. The board had reviewed everything and taken it seriously. They also told me they were restructuring and opening up a new position, Senior Development Manager. And they wanted me in that role. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just nodded. That afternoon, I walked into Rick's old office. Same desk. Same chair. Same window. But everything was different. So now I'm in Rick's old office. At first, it felt good. I won't lie. Sitting in that chair, looking out the same window he used to stare through like he owned the place, it felt like justice. But I didn't get much time to enjoy it. 2 days later, I got an email from Jason, one of Rick's buddies from another team. He wasn't even subtle. Congrats on the promotion. Guess Sympathy hires can climb the ladder if they complain loud enough. I didn't respond. I forwarded it to HR. But that was just the beginning. Suddenly, I was getting pushback in meetings from people who never said a word before. People who were friendly just a week earlier were now acting cold. I'd ask a question, and they'd pretend they didn't hear it. I'd send an email and get one-word answers hours later. And then came the whispering. I'd walk past the break room, and it'd go quiet. People would stop talking when I entered the elevator. One guy actually said, "Careful what you say, the tattletale's here." I thought once Rick was gone, things would get better. But instead, it was like his ghost was still here. One afternoon, I walked into a team sync meeting. The whiteboard had writing from the previous group. Someone had scrawled, "Deaf, dumb, and promoted." I just stood there for a second. I felt my hands go cold. I looked at my team, none of them made eye contact. Not one. I erased it. Sat down. Ran the meeting like nothing happened. But I took a photo of the board before I wiped it. I sent it to HR and legal. My lawyer added it to the file. That same week, I had to do performance reviews. I was now the manager. The same people who were freezing me out were now reporting to me. One guy, Kevin, tried to tell me he didn't feel comfortable having me in charge. Said I had bias because of what happened with Rick. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "You mean because I reported discrimination and kept doing my job?" He didn't answer. Another developer, Cassie, flat out told me she thought I was part of some diversity PR stunt. Said the company was just using me. I said, "Then why are you still here?" She didn't answer either. The tension grew by the day. HR claimed they were investigating, but nothing changed. People didn't want me there. Not because I was bad at my job, I was actually making the department run smoother. But because I reminded them of the thing they all let happen. I reminded them of Rick. And none of them wanted to admit they'd let him get away with it. So I started planning again. Not revenge, not yet, but protection. I started logging every meeting. Recording public Slack threads. Saving every weird email, every insult said in a joking tone. Because something told me this wasn't over. And I was right. 3 weeks after I moved into Rick's office, someone filed an anonymous complaint against me. 3 weeks into the job, I got called into HR again. This time, they didn't look as friendly. The rep, different one now, not the same woman who handled Rick's case, handed me a printed sheet. On it was a typed-up complaint. Anonymous, of course. The new manager is creating a hostile work environment. Several team members feel uncomfortable. There is an unspoken pressure to support him or risk being labeled ableist. He plays the victim and uses his disability for power. I stared at the paper. It felt like someone had punched me in the throat. The HR rep cleared her throat. "This is just a first step. We're not accusing you of anything, but we are obligated to look into it." I nodded. Didn't say much. I already knew the game. They were trying to flip the story. Rick was gone, but his allies were still here. And now they were trying to make me the problem. It was smart, in a way. They couldn't touch me on performance. I had already hit every deadline and turned the whole department's productivity around in a matter of weeks. But this? Accusing me of emotional manipulation, of weaponizing my disability? That was harder to disprove. It was vague. Personal. Just believable enough. So I did what I always do. I documented everything. I made a list of every interaction I'd had with each team member. Logged it by date and time. I already had backup from Slack and emails, plus a few quiet supporters on the team who started telling me what was being said in side channels. Turns out, Kevin and Cassie had started a private Discord server with a few others. They were calling it Project Realignment. One of my coworkers, Ben, showed me screenshots. He wasn't in the group, but someone had invited him and didn't know where he stood. He quietly took photos. He thinks this place owes him something. Let's see how long he lasts once HR realizes he's the toxic one. We just have to survive his ego until he messes up. There was even a joke poll: will he cry during Q3 review? It wasn't just me they were talking about. They mocked another junior dev, Amanda, who was on the autism spectrum. Called her Captain Literal. I didn't even know she was on their radar. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about me anymore. There was a deeper rot in this department. Rick was just the loudest piece of it. These people had been protected for years. They had built a little club where they felt safe saying whatever they wanted, mocking whoever didn't fit in. Now they were scared. And when people like that get scared, they get dangerous. I sat in my office that night, long after everyone left. I looked around the room, Rick's old room, and I knew exactly what had to happen next. They were trying to drag me down. So I decided I'd take the whole system down with me, if I had to. The next morning, I walked straight into legal. Not HR. Not management. Legal. I showed them everything. The anonymous complaint, the screenshots from the secret Discord server, the jokes about me and Amanda, the pattern of behavior that went back before Rick got fired. They didn't blink. They asked for copies. I gave them everything. Then I told them I wanted to file a formal retaliation claim, not just for myself, but also for Amanda. I made it clear, if they wanted this company to avoid another public lawsuit, they needed to act now. That afternoon, things moved fast. An emergency audit was launched. They quietly pulled call records, chats, even private calendar invites. I don't know everything they found, but I do know this. Within a week, 4 people were placed on administrative leave: Kevin, Cassie, and 2 of their little Discord buddies. Amanda got called in too. They asked her about the bullying. She broke down in tears. She told them how she'd been excluded from meetings, how Kevin once mimicked her voice in front of others, how nobody took her ideas seriously even though she was one of the smartest devs on the team. And she wasn't the only one. More stories came out. People who'd kept quiet started talking. Turned out, Rick's legacy wasn't just about me. He had made a lot of people miserable, but they were too afraid to come forward while his people still had power. HR tried to spin it like they were already investigating, but everyone saw through it. The board got involved. Again. This time, they did more than just fire people. They cleaned house. 8 employees total were let go. Not just fired, blacklisted. The company issued a public statement about reaffirming their commitment to inclusion and zero tolerance for internal retaliation. That was the polished version. What they didn't say was that legal was terrified of another lawsuit. They offered me a choice: stay in my role and lead the rebuild of the department, or take a severance package and leave with a full year's salary and benefits. No NDA. Just a clean exit. I asked for a day to think. That night, I sat at my desk, staring at my old notes, old emails, every moment that had brought me to this chair. I thought about the years I'd worked while doubting myself. The jokes. The whispers. The way people treated me like I was broken or a burden. I thought about Rick, about the retreat, about staring at my shoes while everyone else pretended not to hear. I also thought about the people who stayed quiet, not out of hate, but fear. And the people who spoke up when they didn't have to. Like Ben. Like Amanda. The next morning, I walked back into the boardroom and gave them my answer. I stayed. Not for revenge. That part was done. They were gone. Humiliated. Most of them would never work in this industry again. Word got around. One of them tried applying for a job at another firm and was told straight up, "We know what happened at your last job." No. I stayed to build something better. To lead for real. Not because I was some checkbox hire or sympathy case. But because I earned it, and I survived it. 6 months later, our team was stronger than ever. Amanda got promoted. Ben joined leadership. We brought in 2 new junior devs from underrepresented backgrounds, and this time, they were welcomed. As for me? I still sit in Rick's old chair. But now, it doesn't feel like his chair anymore. It feels like mine. And every time I lean back and look out the window, I remember where I started. Not to feel proud. But to never let it happen again. Because people like Rick don't just disappear. They wait for silence. And I'll never stay silent again.